On this episode of Cooking with Alcoholic Beverages with Skyler Bouchard, we are going to be making beer braised Brussels sprouts with bacon. Yeah, it's a wordy one, but it's tasty. And then I'm tossing them in a honey mustard glaze. This is a shockingly easy recipe, and it's inspired by every restaurant I've ever been to. Because usually in fall and winter seasons, restaurants will throw a bacon Brussels sprout item on the menu. Obviously, I'm talking about American restaurants or new American restaurants. There's just something about it. It's a magical combination. You have this smoky, salty bacon and it has a nice crunch. Then you have these really earthy, kind of boisterous, I don't even know if that's the right word, but really strong Brussels sprouts. And they tie together nicely because they're both so strong. And then I like to add a little sweetness, and that's where I got that honey mustard glaze. Another option here would be a balsamic glaze. It's really up to you, but no matter what you decide to do, this is a great comfort food, a great snack, great for the weekend. It's a great side dish if you have something lighter as your protein with it. You know, I would pair this with a light, delicate fish done very traditionally, or even scallops, just simple stuff here. But bacon Brussels sprouts, the combo of the year. I just wanted to show you how to make it. So let's get started. First step, you gotta pick a beer that you can drink and you can cook with. It's more fun that way, because that way you can just be like, oh yeah, okay. And then pour some in your pan. I like Stella. It's what I have, but use whatever you like. It's very simple. The next thing you wanna do is obviously prep your sprouts. When you're prepping your sprouts, it is important to wash them. You do not want dirty sprouts. Dirty sprouts are not cool, okay? You gotta wash them, but only wash them right before you're going to use them, and then dry them off. Because if you wash them, then put them back in your fridge, they're gonna get soggy. They could mold because all the moisture will get caught in the leaves, and we don't want that. So the way to prepare your Brussels sprout, you have the end here. Take your knife, cut it off of all of them. Make sure you're doing this for all of them. So it's like a little nub that holds the core together. Some leaves may fall off in the process. That's fine. You can keep them and cook them, which I would recommend doing. They get nice and crispy. Take your sprout, hold it with your hands, and cut in the middle, creating two halves. And for this specific recipe, I like to cut it into quarters just because it cooks quickly. But if you want to cut it in half, you can totally use Brussels sprout halves for this. They just take a little bit longer to cook. If you have small Brussels sprouts, halves will work, but these are actually pretty big for Brussels sprouts. That's why I actually prefer to do the quarters. And just really simple stuff. Just pinch and slice. Pinch and slice. Very easy. Now I'm gonna cut our bacon. I did pre-make this, so I used about 8 ounces of bacon with a pound of Brussels sprouts. You can use as much or as little as you'd like, but I'm just going to show you how to cut it with 2 beautiful slices that we'll eat for dinner. My hands have touched raw meat. I am not using this knife with anything else today. I did already cut my Brussels. I'm just going to cut into strips. I'm using my hand to hold them together. If you don't feel comfortable, feel free to wear a glove. I feel very comfortable around raw meat. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I don't see it being a huge threat. Just to point out the way I'm cutting it. So there's a layer of fat, there's a layer of meat. You wanna cut perpendicular to those layers. So each little strip of bacon that you're cutting has the meat and the fat. You don't want to separate the meat from the fat because, I don't know, it doesn't have the same textural element to it. That's what I prefer. I mean, obviously, if you prefer your bacon cut a certain way, you should do what you want to do here. And then in terms of the cut of bacon I am using, this is Smokehouse uncured center cut bacon from Whole Foods. It was the cheapest one they had, but thick cut bacon would go so beautifully here. Pancetta would also go nicely, but it's very salty. It doesn't have the same smoke. I recommend if you are going bacon, use that smoke. It's going to benefit your whole recipe and totally change the game. I'm gonna wash my hands and then we're gonna take this to the stove, and while our bacon's cooking, we're gonna mix up our honey mustard mixture. All with clean hands, of course. So let's go clean it up. Okay. I actually already filmed this for an Instagram reel. I'm like producing Instagram reels like very officially for my own Instagram. But I figured I would just film this again because I have bacon cut up. I have Brussels sprouts cut up. I have a hungry husband in the other room, so we might as well just do it again. You don't need to season your pan. Our bacon is gonna render so much fat, it's going to actually be alarming. It's enough fat to fry the Brussels sprouts, okay? Like, we don't need any extra fat. So let's take this to the stove here. I'm using a stainless steel pan. You can use a skillet, cast iron skillet. Okay, so I'm gonna just put all my bacon in the pan, gonna move it around. I don't want my heat to be too high because then my bacon will burn and then the drippings on the pan will be burnt. Our Brussels sprouts will get that same burnt flavor. It's just sad, okay? While my bacon is getting nice and sizzly, I wanna talk about why we're braising our Brussels sprouts. That seems so technical, like we're braising short rib. That was in one of my previous videos. And it's not a big deal. You're basically using a dry heat first and then a wet heat to bring tenderness to the vegetable. And you can do this with meat, you can do this with vegetables, you can really do it with anything. But I chose to braise these instead of do it reverse. A lot of people choose to blanch their Brussels sprouts and then put them in the dry heat, but I don't really feel like having to boil a pot of water. So this is how I decided to do it. And I have this beer on hand and I love the comforting element of cooking with beer. So that's why I decided to braise our sprouts in beer. I am just moving this bacon around. Of course, my dog is now sitting at my feet like a good boy. I offered to give my dog bacon today. All he had to do was sit as I left the apartment for 1 second, and he wouldn't do it. He loves me more than bacon. Isn't that nice? No, it's not. That means you have a dog with attachment issues. Just wait until it gets nice and crispy, or at least to the level that you like. You're gonna notice your pan's gonna start to swell with oil. Golden brown bits are going to stick to the bottom, which is fabulous because that's flavor, and we will pick that up with that beer that we're pouring in. It's gonna be a very delicious time for everybody. Okay, almost there. I honestly love this recipe because it is so easy. Like the fact I can make it twice and not feel overwhelmed is great. Once your bacon is perfectly crispy, which is now for me, put it in a bowl or a plate or whatever. I don't like to tilt the pan because I don't want all the oil to leave the pan. If you do sense that you have a ton of oil and fat in the pan, feel free to pour half of it into a bowl or a jar and you can use it for later. So I want you to see this. It's smoky fat. Hey baby, it's me and your smoky bacon fat. I'm going to use all of it. I've got about 1.5 tablespoons in here. And usually a lot of bacon fat can scare me, but you know, we're frying these sprouts. They need moisture. Brussels sprouts are pretty hard to penetrate, so I'm fine with it. Woo! Putting it all in the skillet. You know, I was actually about to go to culinary school and the pandemic hit. I am so glad I didn't go to culinary school. Fun fact, believe in your dreams. Okay, let them cook and season them with some salt and some peppy doo-doo. Let it happen for a minute. I want to do a quick pan toss so these are all evenly cooked. You'll see they're already starting to get golden brown, so they're essentially frying. Let's go mix up our mustard and our honey. I'm gonna get a bowl. It's getting smoky. Oh my God, my neighbors, I went in my hallway and it just so smells like extreme bacon today in our hallway. And I know it's my fault, so. Okay. About 2 tablespoons of mustard. Eyeballing it, about 1 teaspoon for every tablespoon. If you like it sweet. If you don't like it sweet, go for a half a teaspoon. Okay. If the thickness scares you, you can add a little beer to this actually. Okay, so what I'm doing, this is braising. So we have our charred Brussels sprouts. I'm adding about 1/4 cup of beer. Okay, and we gotta let it cook. And that's gonna pick all that bacon crispy bits off the bottom. Meanwhile, it's also going to cook our sprouts internally a little more, kind of like a nice beer steam. And who doesn't like a beer steam? You tell me someone who doesn't like a beer steam, and I'll write them a letter. All the beer has been evaporated. You can see now I'm just left with smoke. Beautiful. And I'm going to put my bacon back in. I'm gonna lower my heat a little bit. Okay. Glaze time. Put the glaze in. And then toss it up. My heat is on medium low now. And I just use my tongs to fully coat them here. But if you would prefer to toss it up, go for it. Okay. Oh, yum. Honestly, these are just so tasty. And that's it. That's how you make it. We're gonna plate it. I personally believe these could make a full entree. Like, they're just that good and they're full of flavor. But I think if you're having family over and you're watching the game, or you decide to make a nice piece of meat, this could be a nice hearty starter. That's it. That's the stuff, everybody. That's how you make it. I actually love making bacon and Brussels sprouts because it's one of my uncle's favorite dishes to make at our family parties. My dad doesn't like Brussels sprouts, and if my uncle makes it like this, he will eat them. They're just so classic, so flavorful, simple and easy. And you can even make this without the honey mustard glaze. I just love an extra pop of brightness, of it's like a little tang, brightness, sweetness, and then that spice from the horseradish, all of it together with the smoky, salty bacon, the really robust, earthy Brussels sprouts. It all just works, in my opinion. So let's eat it. Oh man, it's so good. And it pairs, of course, so nicely with beer. Come on, it's beer. Like, give me an excuse to open a beer at 9 a.m. when I started this video. I'll take it. All right, bye guys. I will see you later. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my account is Dining with Skyler. Definitely check it out. I also have a little condensed reel version of this recipe. So if this video bored you to tears, luckily you can go to Instagram and get it all in 15 seconds. And then of course the recipe will be in the description on my website with Skyler.com. I'm gonna shut up and eat my sprouts, and I will see you next time. Yeah, oh wow.